Hey, it's Marin, and in this video I'm going to be sharing about the lunar eclipse in Capricorn this July 19th at 5:32 p.m. Eastern Time. So lunar eclipses are full moons that involve the nodes of the moon. The sun will be in Cancer as the moon is opposite it in Capricorn, which means that all in all, the sun, the north node of the moon, and Venus will be all in Cancer in the cardinal water sign of Cancer, opposite to the moon, Saturn, Pluto, and the south node of the moon, all in the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn. So there's a big oppositional energy going on, especially at a bigger scale because this is an eclipse. It's a partial eclipse, not just a normal full moon. With the sun being our creative expression and the more assertive projection of ourselves in the world being in Cancer, and with the moon being a more internal, comforting, day-to-day way of expressing feelings, our emotional tides, the way that we comfort ourselves, and just collective emotional basis. This lunar eclipse, with those energies being opposite, it's likely that our creative expression to express ourselves vulnerably and honestly and with a lot of emotional passion behind us in a really driven, really open way is likely hindered by internal fear of not being received well, of feeling cold to nurturing ourselves because the moon is debilitated. It is in its detriment in Capricorn because the moon is such a soft, changing, ever fluid way that we interact with the world. It's a very inner part of ourselves, which doesn't get shown too often because it's quite vulnerable. And with that in the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn, that's very pragmatic, that's interested in results and in what is practical and what is useful, the moon there can get a bit of a shock and be quite stunting for emotional energy to be there. Not that a natal placement embodies that in and of itself, but as an archetypal collective view, we can see that this is happening we have passion and vigor behind creative projects or things that we want to pursue that might be humanitarian or for the sake of others, that there's some sort of internal environment that is not completely conducive to that right now. The sun, the north node, and Venus in Cancer will be all trine Neptune though, Neptune in Pisces. So if we call upon higher guidance, our guides, any type of meditative practice, any type of spiritual practice we have, they'll be there for us. If we go within, if we meditate, if we do our own practice that we can depend on for guidance, trust that the creativity will flow. And if we allow the creativity to flow rather than forcing it or rather than looking for this direct scheduling of when we can produce what we need to produce, if we just let it be rather than force it to look a certain way, we won't feel so pressured. If we take the pressure off of ourselves and instead put our faith in knowing that the right thing will come out of us at the right time and not making it look a certain way, not trying to please a certain person, things will come by themselves a lot more naturally and easier. Mars and the Mercury retrograde in Leo will be squaring Uranus and Taurus, which adds a tendency towards dramatic gestures or words that leads to misunderstandings that are just kind of there for shock value in the first case. We can have lightning moments of inspiration if we're open to those instead of trying to be forceful with the way that we are directing our words or our influence onto others. Mars and Mercury in Leo will further be trine Chiron, which is such a great aspect of supreme harmony, allowing us to open up about vulnerabilities and to have radical honesty and openness with those around us. It's definitely a time for healing and release, and maybe this full moon time of culmination, this high point of the sun opposite the moon and all this eclipse energy is really a release of the feelings of setback and limitation more than it is an initiation of a certain project. This is kind of an example of what needs to happen with your mindset, with the way that you look at problems, so that this one instance isn't really the big deal. It's more the underlying pattern behind it and letting go of the perceived limitations that you have within you to go after what you know you want and you deserve to manifest. What's interesting too is that the New York chart for this, so the Eastern Standard Time of 3:15 p.m. Eastern, the New York City chart has its Sagittarius rising for this lunation at 15 degrees Sagittarius, exactly conjunct Jupiter. So there's an incredibly big door opening if we observe it and allow ourselves to be open to it rather than forcing to control ourselves, because Jupiter is the supreme benefic. This isn't a day chart. This is right on the ascendant, the entrance to the chart. There is, even though it's a challenging, lesson-ridden energy, there's At the very entrance, there's the most benevolent optimism possible. So, I mean, maybe this is only for New York because this is only the New York chart. Pull up the chart where you are and let me know what the rising is for you and if you have Jupiter right on the ascendant, because this is an aspect of supreme door opening if we can embrace the challenge as a door opening and not as something laid out in front of us to have to jump over. It's a call to act. It's a dare. It's larger than life and the lesson it can provide. It's not a time to act larger than life and be dramatic and see things as seriously as they might seem, because if we're on Earth, it's Earth school, and it's not a time to take things as more seriously than all one big game to teach us what we are here, literally, because we did not learn. Going through all the rising signs one by one now based on your rising sign, I'll let you know where this is coming up for you. Similar to the last lunation earlier in the month, this will be activating a lot of the same themes. So for Aries rising, this will be across your 4th house, 10th house axis of home versus family. If you are a Taurus rising, this will be across your 3rd house, 9th house axis of short-term travel, siblings, and communication. My neighbor is really loud. Versus your 9th house of higher goals, long-term travel, and religion. If you are a Gemini rising, this will be happening between your 2nd house of personal finances and your 8th house of shared finances with others. If you are a Cancer rising, this will be happening between your 1st house of self and 7th house of others and relationships. If you are a Leo rising, this will be happening between your 12th house of introspection, psychology, meditative states, of exile, and your 6th house of health, daily routine, and taking care of yourself. If you are a Virgo rising, this will be happening between your 11th house of friends, groups, and networking, and your 5th house of creativity, romance, and children. If you are a Libra rising, this will be happening between your 10th house of career and your 4th house of home and family. If you are a Scorpio rising, this will be happening between your 9th house travel, long distance plans, higher education, and your 3rd house of siblings, communication, and short-term travel. If you are a Sagittarius rising, this will be happening between your 2nd house of personal finances and your 8th house of shared finances with others. If you are a Capricorn rising, this will be happening between your 1st house of self and your 7th house of relationships and partnerships. If you are an Aquarius rising, this will be happening between your 12th house of internal states, of meditation, of going within, and psychology, versus your 6th house of physical, taking care of yourself in your day-to-day routine. If you are a Pisces rising, this will be happening between your 11th house of networking, friends, and groups, and your 5th house of romance, creativity, and children. I hope this was helpful. I do private consultations at the link below. Like, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see you soon.